podcast. My name is Justin, and I feel like I haven't done a podcast, a basketball podcast, honestly, since the playoff starts, which is horrible for, a podcast that specifically talks about the NBA. But not to get too far into life stuff, craziness going on right now. And we're just happy that we are able to talk basketball, or at least watch it and now talk about it. So Kevin and I will get back on the same schedule here in a little bit. I'm pretty sure he escaped the country. He left the country because the 76ers' poor performance. He didn't want to be in the same country as them at the moment. So we bring in friend of the show, Carlton, who I believe we've had on before, but not in a very long time.
No, you got to be a day one listener if you remember me.
You got to be a day one if you remember Carlton. But either way, we appreciate you coming on and talking basketball. Format of the show has changed a little bit since you've been on. We start the show off with some warm-up jumpers, as what we call them. And the first warm-up jumper that I wanted to talk about would be the potential implementation of these new rules in the 2021 NBA season or upcoming season. The idea is they're trying to take away the moves that are currently being used to draw fouls. Shams tweeted about this. Some of the things that they're talking about specifically, the NBA referees are going to be trained to officiate the following actions, which are shooter lunges or leans into a defender at an abnormal angle. The shooter kicks a leg out at a weird angle, or an offensive player abruptly veers off path to collide with a defender. So, do you like the idea of them changing these rules? Do you hate the idea? Do you understand why they're doing it? Because I feel like a lot of people immediately go to the James Harden thing. But I will say, from watching the Sixers-Hawks games, I'm not going to be bitter, but some of these things were happening with Trey at times. So I kind of see where they're coming. I feel like other times it's going to leave room for a gray area where fans can, kind of argue whether or not that's what happened anyway. But for the most part, I kind of agree with what they're trying to do.
Yes, I love it because, like you said, James Harden and Trae Young, first two that comes to mind.
Yeah.
It's hard enough to guard those guys anyway. They could shoot from 30 feet. They could shoot from anywhere. They could drive. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is the defender supposed to do? Now you have to worry if you're going to defend Trae Young, because if you put an arm up, he's going to do a weird step to the side, run into you, and get 3 free throws. Yeah, something had to be done. And it's not only is it hard to defend, it made the game less. I've seen a couple times in the Brooklyn series, James Harden, and he's been doing it forever. He cares more about flopping than trying to make an actual basketball play.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I feel about it too. The one that I felt was a little weird, like the leaning into a defender, I feel like we see that all the time. The leg kick one, we see that all the time too. But like the veering off path one, I feel like that one's probably a little more rare than the other two, at least just off the top of my head. But I also think I would like for that to be not necessarily always called if that's the way it happened. Like the one play that I always think of, and it's not necessarily veering off path, but it was in the Sixers Hawks game, and I just keep bringing it up because I'm pissed off, and I keep, it's one of the last games that I saw. Trae Young had a kind of a fast break. It was like a 2-on-1, and he stopped moving, and Dwight Howard happened to be like looking the wrong way and pretty much just trucked him over, like took him out. And yes, that should have been, I believe they called that, and it should have been called. But, like, I wonder if this kind of would have been in a situation like that, if, like, Trey was in front of him and kind of cut in front and then slowed up so that he would run into him, if that's what they're talking about. I feel like that one's a little more odd, but I also get it, and I think that that's where it, should fall into place. So I guess under the new set of rules that haven't officially been approved but are on the process and many believe are going to be approved, these actions would actually be called offensive fouls if very obvious. And then if it's not very obvious, the idea is just no call that and move on with our lives, which, if it does get us back to not this weird nitpicky basketball where everyone's trying to get that one arm hit so that they can keep going, I'm okay with it.
Right. And like you said, it is a little odd, but I'm glad they're doing it now. While it's odd, they're sort of getting ahead of it because we know this offseason, Trae Young and Steph Curry and all the deadliest shooters were about to perfect this, and it was going to be to a point where it's either they hit the three or it's going to be they're going to have way more 4-point plays because we've seen plenty of times Steph get fouled and hit the shot. So
yeah.
I'm glad they're doing it now. Exactly how you said. If Steph is already on a fast break, defenders are running full speed to get back, and he could just take a step left and then shoot his shoot a shot anyway. Yeah, I'm definitely glad. It's odd, but I'm definitely glad they're getting ahead of it.
And even kind of in a way for the defender, maybe it does give them. I wonder if we see potential 3-point percentages come down a little bit because, and this is just in general, it could be for a 2-point shot or anything, but I'm just thinking 3-point shot because you brought it up is I wonder if now defenders are going to be more willing to potentially leave their feet to try to contest the shot, knowing that, if you're going flying past James Harden, he's not able to kind of jump into you as that happens now and get that shot off. So I wonder if players are going to be more willing to get up and contest a shot and potentially get in their face with it a little bit more. Where now you kind of have to almost keep your distance, or they can turn it into a whole nother level of problems for the team. So. Might be something we have to watch is the percentages of how that's all going. So. I like we said, I feel like we're going in circles with the news of it, but I believe that it's a good move, and I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I'd imagine by the end of the week or next week, maybe even by the time you're listening to this podcast, it'll be official, and we'll see where it goes. And next year, I'm sure someone's going to get a no call or a call, and we'll all be up in arms about it and freaking out and mad one way or the other.
Well, that's going to happen. It's going to be next year in the playoffs. Ooh. We're going to see it in slow motion 5-10 times, and we're never going to know what the right call is. We're going to say, did he step to the left? Is it the slow motion? Should it be a call? It's going to come down to it, definitely.
Well, and to that, it was how many people were upset with DeAndre Ayton's alley-oop dunk, calling it contesting, and it's like, dude, it was an inbound pass. It can't be contesting. It wasn't a shot. So the amount of people, obviously the Clippers on the court were saying it, understandably so, but I was like, dude, I thought we all knew this rule.
Yes.
But either way, we're going to get into the NBA playoffs in a second. Carlton, I know you're a big Heat fan, so our second warm-up jumper, I was going to let you go. What do you see as the future for the Heat? What do they need to do? Who do they need to trade? Because and this is not me trying to put Heat fans on blast, but I do recall a time where they did not want to trade for James Harden for a select few players.
I was not one of those.
There were people, though.
There were a lot of people, and I know Kev wishes he was here because, Justin, you and Kev know, I am not a Pat Riley apologist. I have been more critical of Pat Riley than most Heat fans. And you took the easy route. The real pain is not only did they not want to trade certain players from James Harden. Look, we don't know if that trade could happen anyway.
Right.
They have no picks, which is another issue because of Goran Dragic. But they also sorry, my doorbell. Sorry about that. Man, FedEx came and completely made me lose my train of thought. Sorry about that.
Hey, listen. Hopefully, it was a good package.
But yeah, so they didn't want to trade it. Excuse me. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. So yeah, they didn't want to trade Tyler Hero. They didn't want to give up the young guys, but they also have a lot of the guys they have. It's the same type of person. So you have Duncan Robinson and Tyler Hero, who are two great shooters. But they just got exploited on the other end of the court. And, it got to the point where in the end it was fatigue where Jimmy Butler and Ben Adebayo is doing all the work. The other thing is not only did we not want to trade anybody, if you take it back to last offseason, Pat Riley, you got to give him credit. He swings big, but a superstar named Giannis signed an extension and completely ruined their whole 2021 free agency, free agent plans. And that's what happens when you take risk like that. And now you had all your eggs put in one basket, and the guy resigns. You got to that's one of the things I'm real critical on Pat Riley. I like that he thinks he could get everybody. But, LeBron was 2010. It's that was a while ago. Yeah. You got to stop thinking the big three is going to happen every offseason.
Well, and what do you think was the I guess I don't think implosion's the right word, but I mean there were so many expectations for the Heat just because they made it to the finals last year, and I know it was a bubble season, everything was weird, but it definitely I think most Heat fans and probably anybody that follows the NBA would say the Heat had a disappointing season this year. So, what was the cause of the disappointment?
Combination of a couple things. So you had some guy you let go of pieces like Jay Crowder, who you mentioned the past earlier. He was a starter on that lineup. That's a big piece. And then the natural sophomore slump of Tyler Hero, step back, Goran Dragic with the short. I'm not one to blame. You won't hear me blame the short off season on much. If there's anything I will blame, he had less time to recover. So Goran Dragic never looked good that whole year. Yeah. And then the guy that Heat fans think can do no wrong, but Pat Riley. We went there. We lost the championship, obviously, but even if you win, their team still needed improvements, clearly. Sure. The first thing they did was sign Goran Dragic, which I'm happy with. I wanted them back. I want them back next year, too. Then they signed Myers Leonard and Mo Harkless and rolled that team out there. And you saw what happened. You had one team that was pretty much the same. They ended up trading Mo Harkless. So you had a team that was pretty much the same in Miami. And then you had a Bucks team that improved. Mm-hmm. And it went from a 5-game series one year to the sweep, and no game was even competitive past the second half, past the first half and the second. So, that's basically. I won't blame the shortened season. I do think it was fatigue had a little bit to do with it, but it's just their weaknesses. They didn't improve in any weakness, and I'm starting to think, like I said, Pat Riley's ego got the best of it. You're a Philly fan. There's a lot of people that said that he liked Tyrese Maxey, but he's in LeBron's camp. Like, you can't let things like that stop you from making business decisions.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing is, it felt like the Heat were only a few pieces away. Obviously, they were right there. So in my mind, it was like, you don't need to make these drastic changes. You just need a few pieces here or there. But you did, like you said, like with Tyler Hero, like, you got to remember this kid's young. Like these numbers are great, but like there's going to be some kind of leveling out process. And it almost felt to me a little bit. And check me if I'm wrong here, but it almost felt like he got a taste of that limelight. Like he had the rap song come out, had all this stuff going on, and then it kind of was like, hey, you never refocused on basketball. And again, maybe I'm wrong. That's literal an outside observation from just knowing what went on with him a little bit. And so I wonder if that's might have been the situation. But we will talk a little bit about that shortened season in a way later on. We're going to talk USA basketball down the line here. And Chris Paul's not going to be on the team, and a big part of that is because if the Suns make a legit run, which, in my mind, I think they actually will. And again, we're going to talk about it. But if they're doing that, you are going to have a very, 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 if not none, off-season days. Like, you're going to jump right into USA, which is why I was surprised Devin Booker's in. Not necessarily surprised that he wants to do it, but just like from a holy cow, I need to take a break standpoint. You need to let your body recover. I mean, he took that. He looked like Owen Wilson's nose. Like, his nose was looking rough.
It was.
Yeah. So I looked at that. I was like, oh my, how do you just, like, I'm the kind of person though, like if mine, I don't even know did they say it was broken or is it just crooked?
I think it's one of those things where they don't say it's broken, and we just know the obvious because they don't want people looking at the NBA like, oh, how can he play with a broken nose?
Right. But to me, I looked at that and I was like, I would have felt the crack, felt whatever. I would have looked in the mirror and been like, nope, I can't play basketball ever again. Like, I need to break. My nose is literally sideways. And obviously he's dating Kendall Jenner, so you got to make sure you look good for Kendall Jenner. You don't want to mess that up.
There'll be plenty of pictures, that's for sure.
Right. So okay. So we'll take a second here to thank everybody for listening, and you can always follow along, subscribe to the show. You can find us on any streaming platform. We also are on YouTube. Yes, we know we haven't been doing a lot to it. There is a whole backstory that I'm not technically allowed to go into as to why we haven't been able to do stuff. So we just want you to know that we are working on getting back to our regular scheduled programming, weekly podcast episodes with content drops on YouTube. So you can find us Drive and Dish NBA Podcast on YouTube. Just search us there or search us in your podcasting app and you can find us there. But first, we take a break for some sponsors. All right, so let's get into the NBA playoffs. The first one, let's talk about the games. That's 2-0 right now. We mentioned Devin Booker a second ago. So Phoenix and LA, Suns now lead 2-0 after a wild last second. I'm not even 0.9 second left in the game. Crowder inbound pass, dunk for DeAndre Ayton. But I think the biggest underrated thing, and I've seen some blogs talking about it, so I won't say it's not being talked about at all, but the screen that Devin Booker set was amazing, was underrated in that whole, series of events to get them to that spot. So congratulations to the Suns. The crowd reaction videos are insane. I'm so pumped for them. Tim, friend of the show, who we were actually texting the other day before the 76ers lost, and he had texted. He said, if it's the Suns Sixers finals, I want to come back on the show. And I didn't respond because I was at a wedding, but for sure would love to have had that happen. Sadly, that's not going to be what happened. I still want Tim to come back. I got to text him actually now thinking about it. Tell him to come back on if the Suns can get this win, which I think we're there. I think the Suns are going to do it. Do you think the Clippers can get a game or two here, or do you think they do another whole comeback situation?
I too think the Suns are going to get it done, and it's funny, Justin. Paul George was so close to getting his playoff P nickname back. He was so close. Just hit one free throw in his overtime.
Just one.
I wouldn't have won it. We're on the East Coast where we were complaining earlier. We don't get any sleep, but just hit one. You can't hit both. You can't miss both free throws.
Well, and what's crazy is I think it was Stephen A. was saying this is in a set of if you take 100 free throws in a row. I think Paul George, I'm going to misquote this, but it was something like he hadn't missed 2 in a row. He had only done it twice in the season out of 100 set free throws. It's dude, how do you miss both?
Right,
and listen, it's coming from a 76ers fan who watched Ben miss most. So I know how you can miss both.
Right.
But dang, dude, you're I'll have to look it up. He's an 89% free throw shooter or something like that.
When things like that happen, you just have to think the basketball guys are looking over the Suns. Let's go through that. So Paul George misses both free throws, and then just everything had to go perfect. In that play call, like you said, the Devin Booker pick was perfect. The Jay Crowder pass was perfect. Ayton, he had contact. He had Zubik right under him. He had to finish that. Somehow the ref said it only took 0.2 of a second. I still don't understand how that's all they take off of there. But everything had to go perfect for it to work, and it did.
That is one of those things that happens in a game where you just go, they are destined to win the whole thing this year. They are the team to win the whole thing this year. And I know that sounds really weird. It's a luck thing at times, but it just... That is, and not only that, at least for the momentum of this series, although I feel like the Suns already had the momentum, it fully swings it in the Suns' favor. And if they had not gotten that, it would have been even 1-1, and here we go. Let's take this to 7 games. I still think it could take, 6 or 7. Just depending on what's going on with Kawhi, there's an injury to the knee there. Yeah. I saw some comments about how they're worried it's an ACL, and they're not necessarily confident he's coming back at all. So that would definitely, lead you to feel some worry about that. Chris Paul is out, but that was some COVID stuff, and it sounds like he's pretty confident he's going to be back for Game 3. And if that's the case, well, the Clippers' task gets even harder. CP3 being out, you got to at least try to grab one, if not both of those games. So,
and just sorry to cut you off. Let me ask you something, because I've had this complaint too, and we even seen it in the bubble. All right, so you're defending that inbound play, right?
Sure.
Why will teams stop putting somebody in front of the ball handler? When's the last time you seen somebody tap the ball? Like you put 7 foot DeMarcus Cousins in front. Like the same thing happened last year. The bubbles with Toronto. Yeah. I know Kyle Lowry got the back up a little further than he would have, but I've never seen that work. Like I stopped putting people in front of the ball handler and have an extra defender.
So I get what you're saying with the extra defender, but I guess the counter argument is then the inbounder has an easy throw to whoever he's throwing it to, where if there is a 7-footer in front of him, you kind of have to throw it pretty high. Maybe your vision's blocked because there's a big dude right in front of you. You know what I mean? So like, I that's my counter argument to it. I get what you're saying, have the extra defender, but if it's just a wide open pass, we've seen. I mean, listen. Again, I keep taking it back to Sixers and Hawks, and I'm trying to save it. I'm trying to save it for when Kevin and I are together because I know it's not going to be good. But, if you have these easy, open, just able to throw it up there lob passes, which is what happened, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't easy, right? And so, but the amount of times Clint Capella or Collins had just an easy layup dunk because Embiid stepped up on Trey because the defender wasn't following him, whoever it was, it's better, in my opinion, to have a hand in the face at least to kind of disrupt it. Maybe they have to throw it at an awkward angle or a little higher than they're used to, and maybe the pass is just a little bit off. And in this situation with 0.9 seconds, it's just enough to make it not work.
Right. I see what you're saying. We rarely see it get tipped. Yeah, the 7-footer tip it.
Yeah, and then you'll have those situations where they get them to turn around and they throw it off their back. So yeah, I mean. What do you see this going then? With Kawhi coming back potentially or not coming back, where do you see this series going? Do you see it as a sweep?
I don't see it as a sweep. Just if you would have asked me this, if without them having the first 2 series of 0-2, then maybe I would entertain it. But I just could see like with that one being so close, I see them pulling out at least one in LA. With Kawhi coming back, I see no more than one. I see it as a 5-game series, or without Kawhi. Excuse me.
Without Kawhi, yeah.
I see it as a 5-game series. I still don't see them winning either way. With Kawhi, I can see it going to 7. I think Kawhi would, even what 70% Kawhi. 60-70%, we don't know how good he is. Something out there that's at least a better defender than what they have. I'm a big Pat Beverly hater, so I think him out there fouling and reaching.
I was laughing because I saw I had missed most of the Suns game. Obviously, I watched it the next morning because we have lives and we can't be up till freaking 2 in the morning watching these games. But dude, I'll tell you what, I saw the photo first of Booker's nose and the stitches and stuff like that, and I went, that's Patrick Beverly, wasn't it? And that was a Patrick Beverly thing, wasn't it? And it was. I was like, yep, okay, there you go.
You can't make it up. Like there's nothing good that ever happens. You're like, oh, Patrick Beverly must have that. You see an injury, yep, Patrick Beverly must have been guarded up.
Oh yeah. Well, and so I was reading a little bit about Paul George, Reggie Jackson, the Clippers in general, and they were talking about how they're still confident, and apparently Reggie Jackson's a big motivator right now, just telling everybody we're good. I mean, we've seen it with when he was the Jazz series. I think he was wearing the smiley face emoji shirt. Like he's all over it. So it's cool to see Reggie Jackson stepping up into that, I guess, role, and really trying to get the team motivated. And I do hope. Obviously, we have friends that are Suns fans. I do hope the Suns go the whole way this year, but I do hope it's at least interesting. So maybe make it a 6 or 7 game series. I'm sure the friends won't like that idea, but make it a 6 or 7 game series and give us something awesome. And it's exciting to finally see the NBA taking notice of Devin Booker, where I think fans of NBA that are like hardcore fans know about him. We knew about him because we talked about the Suns a lot with Tim. Right. So I knew about Devin Booker. I knew what he was capable of. I knew the numbers he was going to put up. And this year, he's just doing it so much more efficiently. Like Chris Paul should get a ton of credit for that. in terms of mentorship and showing him how to do everything. Not everything, but at least teach him the ways to do that and do it efficiently where they're having like next to no turnovers in games. It's insane.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man, Justin, you are digging deep. Two things. So I'm a classic Kentucky fan, so I knew about Devin Booker.
Oh, okay.
But you talked about Heat fans and they're irrational. If you go on Twitter, you do hashtag Justice Better. Heat fans swore up and down that Justice Winslow is better than Devin Booker.
So they were the same year?
Yes. The Heat picked them 2 picks before. There was actually, you know how things come out later. They promised Devin Booker they draft him. They didn't expect Winslow to be there. He was. They chose to make the wrong decision. Yeah, it's honestly. But yeah, Heat fans do hashtag Justice is Better, and it looks silly. It's always looked silly, but every time he does anything, it's just like a punch to Heat fans because he was.
Oh, yeah. Well, but hey, look, I mean, they can hang their hat. I'm looking at it now. So Devin Booker, went 13th to Phoenix. Everybody knows that. But I mean, you can go all the way. You'd have him going number one. You'd have him going number one if you were going to redraft this.
Absolutely.
I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that kind of is lower that I would bring even higher, but not than him, but just bring up. But I mean, looking at the top 15, okay, Booker is the easy number one.
Right. Probably still go Cat, right?
You got to go, but it's probably Cat, and then D'Angelo, and then Chris Stapps. Maybe.
Man, that was supposed to be a good draft, and it is not in hindsight. Like Stanley Johnson was supposed to be better. Winslow. You remember that summer league we went to?
We went to that summer league.
Good, and we were like, "Whoa!" And
Emmanuel Mudiay was big hype too.
Yeah,
I remember him. Mario Hezonja was like Super Mario, dude. Come on. Oh wow. Man. Sam Decker. Dude, Bobby Portis is some name, Larry Nance, wow, that's crazy. I was actually looking at Trae Young and Luka's draft, and I saw someone tweeting, it might have been, who was tweeting it? Forget who tweeted it out, but they were saying is the 2018 NBA draft one of the best. Because you got DeAndre Ayton, Luka, Trae Young, Jaren Jackson Jr., who else am I? Colin Sexton. I mean, just some of the quick names that I've seen pop up here. Again, we're only, a few years into this.
What year is that?
2018. It's,
yes, this is a deep draft, man.
I mean, just looking at, just even going from the top 10, right? You at least got one.
And you got Jaren Jackson Jr., who's a solid, who's really good. He may even be better on another team. I know him and Ja aren't the best fit.
Mm-hmm.
Gilgeous Alexander was in that draft. Miles Bridges, who I know you guys really liked. Kevin Huerter. I'm going to pronounce his last name wrong, but
Kevin Huerter. Yeah, Kevin Huerter. Oh, I missed that. And then DiVincenzo, who is injured now but played great for the Bucks. Shamit is on there.
Shamit was in there. Even solid role players. I'm looking in the second round.
Allen.
Bruce Brown was in that. Was taken in the second round. Hamidou Delio, Justin Jackson. So yeah, this
Zaire Smith. Yeah, dude. There might be an argument for that.
Definitely.
And then obviously. So here's my question though. Before we get too far on, between Luka and Trae. Who do you value higher right now, with these playoffs included?
You gotta go Luka still.
Okay.
Just because it's all around game, especially when they're starting to implement. So there's nothing that the NBA, no rule that the NBA could come up with, and you're like, man, that really hurts Luka.
Mm-hmm.
And even in this game 7, Trae Young did not play well. He's.
You're gonna get me going.
I'm sorry.
I almost lost it. I almost lost it. How are you gonna? Nope. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. So you still got to go Luka there. I know we're gonna get to it a little later, but I was actually surprised that Trae Young name, and maybe he declined it. I didn't see it. I was actually surprised that he wasn't mentioned a little bit more for Team USA.
That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't look up that either, but yeah, you would wonder why maybe he didn't get the nod or the pull for that. But it's one of those things because Luka and Trey are always going to be compared because they were traded for each other. So you look at it now, obviously Luka's gone not as far as Trey has in the playoffs,
Right.
but in terms of maybe win shares and the stat numbers, Luka might be better in a good portion of those,
Right.
But yeah, Trey Young's just got so many guys around him, and he's utilizing them so well. I mean, Kevin Huerter, I think it was last year Kevin and I talked about him, and I was just like, this is my guy. This is the dude. He looks awesome. He's going to play great. And they were building the Hawks team, and the Hawks should be going far, right? They put a ton of money into the team.
Yes, a lot of early lottery picks as well.
Yes. So we'll move past that again. Kevin and I are going to get back together, and we will have a deep dive.
I will say one more thing on that, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
For the city of Atlanta, though, Trey Young is not just fine on the court, but off the court matters for a city like Atlanta. I could definitely see the reasoning at the time and even now of Trey Young being the pick in the face of a franchise like the Atlanta Hawks. It just goes better than Luka.
Well, and I completely agree with what you're saying, and even he's got that he's got the moxie, right? Like he's even got the spunk that you need for that city Atlanta needs, because I think it was that play that I was talking about where Dwight Howard pretty much trucked him over, not meaning to, but just took him out, and he's just there started doing push-ups, and I was just like. At the time, I was very upset with him. But I was like, this is awesome, and the dude deserves some credit. So shout out to them. And to that, we flip over to Bucks-Hawks. First game is actually going to be tonight, so by the time you listen to this, you'll know the result of who's leading the series, potentially, or maybe even 2 games in, depending on when you're listening. Right now, the series odds have Milwaukee favored by a decent amount. They're minus 450. So the money is on Milwaukee. Atlanta's plus 375 right now. But to that point, to game 1, Atlanta pulled off a road game win 1, 2 times already in New York, and they did it in Philly. So can they do it again? And I think at this point, the leash in terms of reaction to Atlanta has to be real short. If Atlanta wins the first game, Milwaukee better be worried and panicking, because I think between the Knicks and the Sixers, they did the same thing where they're like, no, we got this. This is the Hawks. We're not worried about them. Blah, blah, blah. It snuck up on them quick.
Yeah. And these teams get hot. So like you said, a Heat fan, look at the Heat in the bubble last year. You start winning games. You have your role players your role players started getting more confident. You start gaining momentum, and you're absolutely right. Look out. And like you said, if Atlanta takes game 1, I know Bud's doing better now. But Coach Bud hasn't been one to making a lot of adjustments. So if they start getting high, it's not a must win, obviously, and they're still favorites. But what Giannis said after the Heat series, which still makes me mad. He's like, "Don't play with your food. Do not play with Atlanta. Don't start giving them life. Don't start letting them hit shots. Yeah. Like you said, they will get on fire. They will get momentum, and the Bucks will be in for a long series."
And to the Bucks side of things, they've had some good time to rest. They've had a decent amount of rest where the Hawks haven't as much. I mean, they go into game 7s and they're tight games, and it was hard fought. Everyone's getting banged up, and so you wonder where that is. But to that, the injuries list, Trey Young's not there. Kevin Huerter has left ankle soreness, was probable. Bogdanovic with that right knee that they kept talking about, he's still questionable. Right. But Cam Reddish was another one that's been upgraded to questionable. So, he hasn't played a postseason game this year. And hasn't played since February, but maybe not. If they can get past this, maybe we see him. Who knows? Maybe he shows up in these. For the Bucks side of things, they got a few guys out for the season that we've already kind of talked about. DiVincenzo, so DeAndre Hunter and Goodwin as well. So, not necessarily big names. Like, injury is not going to be the name of the game here, at least in game 1. Right. Hopefully nobody gets hurt during the thing. But for the most part, teams are going to be 100%. No dig at the guys that are going to be out. So, I'm kind of with the odds and thinking Milwaukee's going to be the winner of this series. But I also thought Atlanta wasn't even going to get past the Knicks. So what do I know?
Right. Sorry. So Sorry about that.
You're good.
I got the Bucks in 6. Like you mentioned last series, Kevin Herter. Watch John Collins. John Collins has a chance to make himself a lot of money. He surprised me with how well he played Joel Embiid. You can't stop Joel, of course, so he didn't shut him down. But he surprised me with just how well defensively he played.
Yeah.
The Hawks have absolutely nobody for Giannis, so and nobody does, of course. Mm-hmm. But John Collins is who's going to have to get that call on who's guarding Giannis. He has a chance to make himself a lot of money if he could show teams that he can bother, even max contract. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but how many times do you see a player get a max contract? Mm-hmm. The Heat like him a lot. He's a hometown kid. They're saying they hope he doesn't get out of that price range. John Collins is going to be the X factor, in my opinion, for Atlanta.
Well, what's interesting with them too, you remember it. The Collins wanted out, or the Hawks tried to trade him. They were shopping him because you had that situation with Capella and like there was like a worry of how are they going to play with each other type situation. But yeah, I mean things have fully switched over, at least on that front. You would imagine he'd want to stay now, right? If the team made a run like this.
Yeah, you would think so, but then it gets to the point where how are you going to pay him? You gotta. That's the good news and bad news with when you have a good team. They pay Bogdanovich a lot of money. I'm not sure of Clint Capella's status, but they have to play Herter. Is it going to get to a point? Do you want John Collins or Kevin Herter? They may have to choose between those two.
You know, I wish I could pull it up real quick. I don't know if I'm going to find it in time, but I did see at one point. There was an all-money NBA team. Yes, here we go. NBA all-money playoff team. It's the players that are going to get themselves, paid essentially. Luka, Trae Young, DeAndre Ayton are at least mainly on their list. Let me see if I can find another one. Kevin Herter is got an extension available. Seth Curry. Oh no, Seth Curry was getting worked by Herter, which was a catch-22. DeAndre Ayton's up for an extension if they wanted to. Mikal Bridges. Suns have some money they might be paying. Michael Porter Jr. Also. I mean, all those guys that are close on that 3-year, that 2018 draft that we just talked about, it is so unrestricted free agents. Reggie Jackson. It's worth noting that he's unrestricted. Nicholas Batum, another unrestricted. Tim Hardaway Jr. for the Mavericks. Jeff Green for the Nets. Campaign for the Suns.
He's been balling. I remember when we saw him in Summer League. He was the only one who did not play good. I counted him out years ago. He is definitely made me eat my words.
Yeah, and then restricted free agents to the guy you were talking about. John Collins is on the restricted free agents list. Bruce Brown, and it looks like
Duncan
that is
Robinson
going to.
It's on there. Duncan Robinson.
Oh, Duncan Robinson. Yeah. I think this was just talking about the guys that are still in the playoffs potentially, at least for the last 2 rounds. So, let's get to the predictions part of it. I mean, I think we already kind of hit it. Milwaukee is going to be the winner of this in my book, though I think this is a massive achievement for Atlanta, and even if they don't make it past Milwaukee, fans should be so pumped for what they've seen because the team's so young and you can just keep running it back.
Absolutely. And what are they waiting for with Nate McMillan? Will they sign that guy already? Like, you still have this guy coaching on the intern contract?
Dude. Oh, I tweeted it. I tweeted it out the other day. The Hawks had one more win than the OKC Thunder going into the All-Star game. One more win than them. And then they just turned it on, and obviously that's where coaching changes and stuff like that kind of happened. So that's a big part of what that point of that tweet was all about. So, yeah, man, it's one of those things where it's just like, holy cow, what a turnaround. You can't not bring Nate back, so you might as well just do it now. I don't know what like you said, what you're waiting for in a way, but hopefully maybe just at the end of the season they'll start getting that stuff done. So.
Right.
We'll flip it over to our last bit of conversation here that we wanted to get into, which is the USA team, the draft lottery, which I completely forgot was the other night, which is a full like total change for me as a Sixers fan. We used to live for that night, and now I forgot it was even happening until I saw the Pistons fans tweeting about it, all excited. So. Just giving you the top 5. Detroit got number 1. So congratulations to them. Houston comes in at number 2. Cleveland's number 3. Toronto is number 4. And Orlando, I always feel like they get number 5.
Poor Magic's fans, man.
They always get 5, right?
Yes.
They're always at the bottom.
Yes. Death, taxes, and the Magic are going to get screwed over in the draft lottery.
But what's interesting is so Orlando has 5. And Chicago's 8th pick is also Orlando's pick. So I wonder if they try to maybe do something there. There was already talk with Cleveland and Ben Simmons at one point I saw, that's going to be the entire offseason is Ben Simmons talk. So we'll save that for later. Another one to mention, number 7 was Minnesota, but that's going to go to Golden State, which could be huge for them. I mean,
yes.
They could be making their move. So they also have 14. So maybe they try to do something with that.
I don't expect them to use those picks on rookies, but I do think they're going to turn them into veteran pieces.
Turn them into something to make a run. I mean, you got Seth, you got potentially Clay coming back. I mean, I saw a thing saying he might not be ready for the beginning of the season, but who knows now? That his injury stuff, that's a little scary. So,
definitely.
But either way, if you're Detroit, obviously you're pumped. Houston, you're pumped. Cleveland, we'll see what you guys do with number 3. Keep adding the assets and see what you can do there. Toronto, I think this is kind of the start of getting the younger pieces and what you want to do going forward. Maybe Kyle Lowry does get traded. Who knows where that ends up? There was a lot of talk about that at the end of the season.
Right.
Yeah, the only one that feels like they got a little bit shafted, for lack of a better, pick. And in general, actually, I'll put OKC there too because they were like deliberately tanking at the end of the season, and they only got 6th. So Orlando and Oklahoma City get messed up in a way, but because Orlando's going to have that 8th pick, I feel like they have some room that they could potentially do something, or you just get 2 really good players,
I want to see Orlando move up. I mean, we've seen them get 2 really good players and not develop them. Like, serious question, is Dwight Howard the last guy Orlando developed, him and Jameer Nelson? Like, I can't remember anyone that they've developed with all these early picks they've gotten.
Yeah, who's been on the team the longest at this point? Because, I mean,
Aaron Gordon, they traded Vic Oladipo early.
But they had Aaron Gordon for a while,
Right.
So probably him. He probably counts,
Yeah,
I'm trying to think.
I'm trying to think too. And how much would you pay him? Like, would you want Aaron Gordon on the Sixers?
I guess it would depend on the fit. You know what I mean? Like, if he's gonna score, sure. Like, we could always use more scoring. But I feel like Tobias Harris, in a way, was similar to what Aaron Gordon might potentially bring. So, like, the fit would be weird for that. But you're not wrong. Like, there's a lot of turnover for Orlando, and I feel like it has to happen again between, Jonathan Isaac and Mo Bamba and all that. Like, I just don't know what you do there. I do like Anthony though, their rookie.
I did like Cole Anthony.
Yeah, who I feel like got snubbed in terms of talking about the rookie stuff, but or the first team or however it was going. But yeah, I mean, he probably deserved a little bit of a nod there in any kind of that little aspect. So. Draft lottery, I mean, does anything, you kind of told me you were looking at players. I haven't necessarily flipped into draft mode. I feel like this lottery, maybe it's because it's for teams that obviously weren't in the playoffs, so you do something exciting to show those fans. But, like, I almost wish this would happen outside of the playoffs. Like, I wish this would happen after everything's done. Like, give us this in the offseason.
I agree. Or Monday would have been the perfect day. Monday was the first time in forever with no basketball.
Yeah.
Do it on there. Do it early so it can be talked about. Like, nobody, if you missed the draft lottery on TV, it's okay to see it all. Do it early so that way it can be talked about. I'm with you on that. And like you said, shout out to Pistons fans. I know it's funny. I was thinking about this earlier when I was looking at draft lottery, Justin. The 2002 to about 2006, 2007 Pistons are who the 08-09 Celtics think they were. Like, the Celtics talk so much, Garnett and Paul Pierce talk, you think that was a dynasty. That's who the Pistons were.
Yeah.
It will be really cool to see the Pistons back good again.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, I mean, they had some decent runs with Drummond there, but I really feel like we haven't seen a decent Pistons teams in a minute.
No.
And I thought Blake. I thought Blake Griffin pulled a James Harden on them when he got his first game back with the Nets, and he's dunking.
You want to know how upset? I can imagine how upset they were. Like, he could barely jump in Detroit, and then he goes to Brooklyn and he's catching alley-oops.
I was like, oh, so that's how this is gonna go. Sure, yeah. I mean, here's the thing, it's fun. It'll be exciting to see Detroit back to somewhat of a decent team and see them maybe putting up 30, 40 wins depending on how everything goes and player-wise. I mean, who do you see as like the top two guys in the draft right now if you had to assess something right now?
Well, it's looking like the Cade Cunningham kid is the number one pick. He's you can pretty much give him let him move to Detroit and start picking that up.
Go buy a house. Go get comfortable.
Evan Mobley, who I just learned, I guess it's Tino Mobley's son that we were talking about that earlier. He's going to be one of the top picks, and then you have there's two Jalen's. There's the Jalen Suggs kid out of Gonzaga who I did get to see a little bit in the tournament.
Yeah,
he's looking good. And then there's a Jalen Green kid who opted to go to the G League. He'll be really good. And then there's two more guys that I like that I've looked over. There's a Scotty Barnes kid who went to Florida State. I got to see him a little bit. He's good. And a guy named Moses Moody out of Arkansas. I really like his game. He's a catch and shoot guy. Devin Booker light. He's in Devin Booker mold. Hopefully, I see so many times, man. It's these guys I like, and then they go to the wrong fit. So it's all about fit with these guys. But those are a couple of guys just looking over and doing some research. I really like. I'm not sure how deep it is, but this draft definitely looks like top heavy, where these guys can get some trades, get some solid players and. Hopefully we see some trades.
Well, and all teams that need it. But yes, I would like to see some trades. And selfishly, I'd like to see the Sixers do something. So we'll see where that ends up going. The other news that we want to wrap up here with is the USA team, obviously going to be coached by Greg Popovich. And I was almost going to say the same thing to the lottery. Is I wish they would wait till after the season to do this stuff so that you can just keep the hype going. But the training camp starts the 6th, so you kind of have to do it earlier than you want. So I get it. The team, as of right now, going to include KD, Devin Booker. That was announced by Woj the other day, and that one surprised me because, I mean, if you're making a legit run at the finals, like you really might only have a few days. But either way, he's young, so he can keep it going. Jason Tatum, which I believe would be his first Olympics. He played for the USA World Cup team in 2019. Brad Beal said he was going to do it. Bam Adebayo said he was in. And I think Shams kind of posted that he's probably the only, so far, center or big on that list that can probably play that position, so he's probably going to play a lot, at least as of right now. Kevin Love committed, which a lot of people are saying that's going to be his way to try to get out of Cleveland a little bit, so we'll see. Dame Lillard said he's in, which I was surprised is actually his first Olympics as well. Draymond Green, another guy that could play a little down low stuff, said he's in. Chris Middleton was a more recent ad. James Harden said he was in, but then he dropped out because of the hamstring. So Jeremy Grant said he's going to join in replace of Harden. Chris Paul decided not to play. So Drew Holiday, again, another player that could be having very little off time, said he was going to step in for him. And then I believe Zach LaVine, and I saw Woj while we were actually podcasting here, say that Anthony Edwards is going to be at the USA basketball select team, travel to Las Vegas for training camp. So, yeah, Anthony Edwards will also be there.
Okay.
So, how do you feel about it? I mean, it should be one of those things where, yes, the world is getting better at basketball, but this team should just win the whole thing. Like, it shouldn't be close, I guess.
and I've seen a lot of people. So there's a couple complaints that I've seen consistent. One, I see a lot of people upset with the roster overall. I personally like a roster better like this. We have the Dream and Redeem team that was all superstars, but we've also seen there's two things where that hasn't worked that the NBA has tried. They tried a bunch of Team USA. They tried a bunch of superstars. We've seen that didn't always work, and they tried to have a lot of young guys, and we've seen that also doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's just because we've seen other countries where they may not necessarily be in the NBA, but they're saying seasoned veterans.
Well, they know what's up. Yeah.
Right, and you're putting them against rookies.
Is Luis Scola still playing?
Probably. He's got to still be in there. So I like the team overall. The one I was looking at, because I was like, okay, who would I change? I was definitely surprised with the Kevin Love, and I looked. So I got a couple names. Let me ask you, assuming Anthony Davis is obviously hurt.
Yeah.
Would you rather Kevin Love on the Team USA or Julius Randle?
Julius Randle or Kevin Love?
Yeah, for Team USA.
So I know where you're going.
Cat were the only two that I could see replacing.
Yeah, so I think here it is. Luis Scola plans to retire after the 2021 Olympics. Dude is still doing it. No, but back to what you were saying is I would prefer Randall, but Kevin Love's going to get the nod because of his veteran been in the league for longer, right?
Yes, that's what I'm assuming, a veteran, and then like you said, Bam is the only true center. Yeah. And the only bigs are Draymond, Kevin Love, and Bam. You needed one that could stretch the floor and shoot the three.
Yeah.
Draymond, we've seen do it, doesn't do it well.
Yeah.
Bam, he can do it, but doesn't do it well. Isn't confident in it. So I think that's why Kevin Love got denied, along with his veteran presence, as you said. And I've been breaking it down. So let me know what you think about this. So I was thinking about the starting. Oh, go ahead.
Well, why not like Zion? Oh, I might have lost him.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I got you. You're good.
I thought I saw Shams.
So, as of 3 hours ago, according to what website is this? The oh my gosh, I don't want notifications, sir. WDSU, which I assume is Louisiana. Pelicans Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram not picked for USA Tokyo Olympic squad. That's shocking to me. Is this an older story though? I feel like this is 2021. June 23rd. This is today. Yeah. So Zion didn't get the nod, which could be an easy big that you could just plug in there,
Yeah.
And Brandon Ingram also, you probably should throw him in the mix as well.
Yeah, so, and then playoffs still going on. There's a couple guys. Ayton and Collins seem like they would be good for the Olympic game, but they have late playoff runs. Are you a Jaren Jackson Jr. fan? Would you rather him or Kevin Love?
Oh, you got to go Kevin Love there still. Maybe give it a few more years and switch it up. You know what I mean? Like, I think at the end of the day, it is the World Olympics, and you got to go with big name guys to show off a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you want the names to really be recognizable. People are going to know who Kevin Love is. And that's not saying the other guys won't. It's just I think they're still young and maybe hasn't gotten out there. I mean, look, it took us until Devin Booker's getting the recognition that he should,
Definitely.
So...
I even have so what do you think about this? I even was playing with the roster a little bit. So for my Team USA starting lineup, I'm going with Dame starting at point.
Okay.
Because Booker is probably having a deep playoff run, I'm going to use him for my sixth man. I went Bradley Beal over Booker just for rest purposes.
So Dame and Beal.
Yeah, guy. Who's get? What's the Bam at 5. Jason Tatum at 4 and KD at Jason Tatum at 3 and KD at 4.
I like that. So then you'd have Booker
and Drew, the first two guards off the bench. You got
Draymond.
Yeah, you got Draymond
and Chris.
Yes.
And Jeremy Grant and Zach LaVine.
Right.
I like it. I think that's probably I think considering Devin Booker's deep run, it makes sense. But I'd be willing to bet, you could probably justify. Well, here's the thing: like throwing Devin Booker over Bradley Beal. I mean, both guys are going to be offensive juggernauts. Like
right.
I just go with whoever's got the hotter hand at the moment.
Yes, and I went with Bill. I feel like Bill will be able to fit. Either one will be able to fit with Tatum, KD, and Dame. So
yeah, I mean, here's the thing. That's the other part of this is these guys are all like. They're all stars. They all know how to play with each other. Like I'm not worried about anybody having trouble chemistry-wise and fitting. I think the only one out there that's going to have ulterior motives would be Kevin Love, trying to get himself on another team. Maybe Bradley Beal if he wants to go to another team, but he's never really.
I mean, he's insistent on staying in Washington every time he has a chance. He insists he wants to stay. It's funny with the Kevin Love thing, though. Like you said, we need a veteran presence. Not the best thing with him. I just have the picture in my mind him doing that inbounds to the other team, just throwing it in with the attitude.
Maybe don't do that. Yeah,
right. Can you imagine him doing that in the Olympics?
Oh, dude, no, that'd be so bad. And you're gonna have Draymond Green out there trying to recruit some guys, I'm sure as well. So,
well, I'm hoping Bam is in Dame Lillard's ear. Bradley. Bill.
Listen. If my 76ers have anything to say about it, they better throw everything they can for Dame. I'm telling you that Joel Embiid tweet felt like a farewell tweet. It felt like a farewell tweet, and I didn't like it because I don't want him gone.
I seen it as a farewell to Ben Simmons. I seen it as a get this guy out of here.
It was a dig. It was a bit of a dig.
I think this, man. I know the free agency. I think like Kyle Lowry is like the headline of the free agency. But I think this offseason is going to be the most fun that we've had in a while. You mentioned you guys. You guys got to make changes.
A lot of them.
The Heat got to make changes. We've seen for the first time the youngest superstars in Luka and Zion aren't happy with where they are. They have to make changes.
But hold on. Okay, but
I'm not saying they have to trade them. I'm saying like the pieces around them.
Yeah, but
they might get traded.
But okay, and for whatever reason, I feel like Luka has a little bit more credibility in terms of saying something. But Zion is like, bro, you haven't even played over 85 games for this team yet.
I'm 100% with you. But they have to make them happy. Everybody signs the first rookie contract. We've never seen them super young stars unhappy this early.
Yeah.
So not huge names, but names are going to be moved. The Lakers need a third person next to LeBron and AD. Is it going to be Dame Lillard? Like somehow Lakers always have cap space to get whoever they want.
Well, that's because the cap isn't real, and you'll never be able to convince me that it's real. You can always find a way around it.
Always a way. Like there's always a player. There's always a buyout. You can always find a way.
There's always something.
Like the names like Ben Simmons, Brandon Ingram.
Yeah.
I don't see Kyle Lowry staying in Toronto.
You got a New York team that showed they could do it without necessarily a big star. So you wonder if there's going to be some draw there. I'm telling you.
We hear that every year. Everybody wants to play for New York until they're free agent, then they sign somewhere else.
Right, but this year feels different because they were able to get to the playoffs and show they just need that one person. They just need it. Or maybe two people. I'm just saying it feels like they're ready. They're the ones ready to make that leap now.
I'm a big New York hater. I hate LeBron tweeting that, the NBA is better when the Knicks are good. The Knicks haven't been good your whole career, dude. What are you talking about?
Well, that's him saying the NBA has never been good when he was there. All right. Well, Carlton, we appreciate you coming on the podcast and talking some hoops while Kevin goes on vacation to try to forget his sorrows for the 76ers. He will be back next week. I will be back next time.
Didn't get swept. I feel
That's fair. That's fair. But honestly, it hurts, and Kevin's got a rant for the ages. So that'll be coming up on the next episode.
I can't wait to hear that.
That is going to be an aggressive one. I'm already going to have to brace myself for myself not talking for at least 6 minutes, I'm sure. So we will get to that next week. We appreciate you guys sticking with us through some of these speed bumps we're trying to go through in terms of the podcasting stuff. Carlton, again, thank you for coming on. We appreciate it. We'll have you on sooner, and hopefully we can get Tim to come on because the Suns go to the finals, and we can get him to do it.
Tim, I'm rooting for y'all, baby.
Yes, exactly.